even when everything feels like it can mean nothing, the Washington football team can play spoiler. Welcome to the Sidelines Washington Podcast, brought to you by the Sidelines Sports Network. I'm your host and head of NFL operations here at the Sidelines Sports Network, Parker Hamlett, coming to you guys today with our preview edition of Sidelines Washington. Make sure if you're watching us in the YouTube realm, give us a subscribe and make sure you mash that bell, turn on notifications for all of our latest here at Sidelines Washington. If you're listening to us, of course, whether it be on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, make sure you give us a rating, review, and give us a follow in there as well. We appreciate all the love, appreciate all the feedback. Social media, Sidelines Washington, everywhere social media is, you will see Sidelines Washington, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Sidelines_WFT. Make sure you give us a follow on there now. So we're now sitting at 2,000 strong on Twitter. Appreciate all the interaction, guys. We are breaching towards the off season now, but there is still some, I guess you could say, somewhat meaningful. There it is. There is somewhat meaningful football left for the Washington football team here in 2021. And as you just saw him on the screen, I am now joined by my host of Kirby on Sports, Josh Kirby. Josh, I know you just played some pickup basketball, man. You look a little gassed, but what's the mood? What should the mood be like for Washington football team fans this week as we go into what some would say a meaningful game, some would say what's the vibe? I mean, we're gonna do a vibe check on the game here. If I were to go in any direction, it definitely feels like it means nothing to me. I mean, this is feeling like a very 7-10 kind of season so far.
Parker, do you think Washington has a shot? Just answer this question. Do you think they're going to make the playoffs?
Okay. As of today, which we're recording December 30th, second last day of the new year of 2021 here, I think the 2021 Washington football team is not going to make the playoffs. But like all things here for us Washington football team fans, I think they're going to make us think that they can. I do personally believe, we're going to get into it in the show here, that Taylor Heinicke is going to make a difference in this game. We all kind of knew going into that Dallas game that we were the little brother in a sense, but this Tuesday night football game is very recent memory. And I remember a lot of plays where I was sitting there thinking if Ford was in the game, we might have had a better shake at it. I'm not saying we're going to have to win the NFC East. I'm not even saying we're going to have to make the playoffs, but I think we're good enough to beat the Eagles.
So, yeah, that's what I'm trying to get at, because my focus here, because you hear Ron Rivera saying, "Oh, Taylor Heinicke is going to start, but we might see Kyle Allen." That to me signals the fact that they're just looking for next year. Because
they can't afford to finish worse than their record last year, which was already below 500, being 7-9. You can't, as Ron Rivera, you can't afford to even make anyone believe that this team is taking a step back. And Coach Rivera said, and it's going to be a main talking point for us today as we preview Philly, this was just a bad game. This is not a different direction the Washington football team is headed in. That's a very interesting quote we want to get into from Ron Rivera. But, I'd be doing all football fans a disservice if I didn't at least mention on the show. We're going to give our of course, talk about the death of John Madden. Really sad stuff there. Very huge, not just, for the NFL, but just the game of football in general. Hall of Fame coach with the Oakland Raiders, broadcaster. Of course, his name is, of course, associated with IP for the very popular Madden NFL football games. 103-32 all-time as the Raiders head coach. I think it's 7 ties as well. 8 playoff appearances, 7 division titles, and, of course, that Super Bowl he won against the Minnesota Vikings. So, we were just talking about it, Josh, not long ago. The All Madden documentary that just came out, and not too long after that, we lose John Madden. And, that's the kind of death. Of course, he's probably going to be on the cover of this year's game. That's probably a lock. But, just how important was John Madden to the game of football? I know you actually caught the whole documentary.
He was very important, not only in the fact of the matter that he was a successful football coach for the then Oakland Raiders. But then after moving on from football, he had a change in heart. He didn't want to coach football. He sort of had to find his next step. He taught a football class. This was in All Man, by the way, at UC Cal Berkeley. And it was and he was just teaching football, just a football class. And it's funny because I saw in the documentary too where Madden didn't want to broadcast at first. he did not want to step in a broadcast.
A lot of them are very hesitant right after football to take that leap, and you can't really fault them, but he always had the voice and the personality for it, man. He always had.
Then something stood out that I sort of took to heart, and I still remember. He said, if that opportunity is for you now, it might not be there later. So he changed his mind and stepped foot in the broadcast booth and had pretty much another successful season. He had a successful career as a coach and a broadcaster. And this Sunday, I would not be surprised if there's a broadcast booth somewhere high atop where John Madden and Pat Summerall are calling a football game.
Absolutely, man. I couldn't have said it better myself. And, like I said, not just the NFL, but just the game of football in general. If I were to equate it to anything, it would kind of just be like the death of maybe Stan Lee as far as the comic book world is concerned. This is an all-timer we're talking about. And, a lot of people, a lot of friends he made around the league, real people's person. And like I said, he's absolutely priceless in regards to how much he meant to the game of football. And I hope the NFL really does that right this Sunday in honoring him. And definitely shouldn't just be a one Sunday kind of thing. I know that's how we do in Washington, do little half-ass ceremonies at halftime, but I don't think we should do that.
There was a league-wide memo. About this.
What was the memo? I didn't get a chance to check that.
The memo, obviously, they state that lost John Madden and they.
Oh, never mind. Yep, I know what you're referring to now. Okay. Yeah, actually,
they had a recommended stadium public address announcement with a big thing, and then they just tell you what to say for the PA announcer. Basically, pretty much NFL memo stuff. But obviously, each stadium will honor him with a moment of silence, which is the least they can do. They should play tribute videos in all 32 team stadiums. Not 32, because you got Giants and Los Angeles sharing stadiums, so on and so forth. But anyways, when a game isn't being played, you need to get that man's face on the monitor, because he just made a lasting impact for the NFL. And he is gone, but he will never be forgotten.
Will never be forgotten. And like I said, definitely hope he gets a little bit better of a tribute than Sean Taylor got this year for the Washington football team. But of course, the NFL, I think, is going to actually do this the right way. And, us younger fans didn't really get to see the prime time of Madden's football career and him coaching in that pristine stretch of dominance that he had. And I'm sure some of us, of our older listeners here on Sidelines Washington, roll their eyes and listen to us talk about him. It's like, oh, they didn't know John Madden. They didn't watch John Madden coach. But even the newer generations can understand the significance of John Madden's legacy in the National Football League, and of course the video game itself. That's a household name. So shout out to the entire Madden family, and tough to lose someone, especially someone like him, an absolute legend. But we kind of started off this show talking a little bit about Washington football team's playoff chances, and sitting at 6-9, 2 games behind heading into Sunday's match against Philly. Everybody's looking for that final wild card spot out of the NFC here. This is the regular season home finale, I think, for the Washington football team as well, hosting the Philadelphia Eagles this weekend. As far as the playoff race is concerned, they now have the San Francisco 49ers, Minnesota Vikings, Atlanta Falcons, and it was the Saints in front of them in the playoff race. Going to take a lot of really crazy things happening for the Washington football team to end up getting back to where they were not even 2 weeks ago in this playoff race in the NFC East. According to 5830, Washington football team's playoff chances dropped from 11% to 5% with Sunday's loss to the Dallas Cowboys. So, and it's the time of the year where if the playoffs are off the table, everybody starts pointing fingers. And one person that people were pointing a lot of fingers at in particular, Josh, I thought was interesting. I don't know if you caught this on Twitter. Team president Jason Wright tweeted out a picture of kind of poking fun at the Dallas Cowboys. You got people saying that, it was inappropriate, unprofessional. How could a guy like Jason Wright lead the charge for the Washington football team? What did you make of Jason putting the picture up? And do you feel like this kind of outrage about the picture is well placed? Because it kind of seemed like fake outrage to me.
I mean, I don't really have an issue with him. I mean, yes, he's a team president and you have to have some sort of professional demeanor, but I mean, stuff like that. I mean, I think he was just having fun. I don't think he meant ill intentions, but of course, you're going to have people who take that the wrong way.
Yeah, exactly. And for me, people want this team to listen to their fans. They want them to be relatable. Those are two things that anybody who's met Jason Wright would know off the bat that he is. He went on. Everybody's like, oh, well, Jason follows this person, but they don't follow that person. Jason has conversations with these people, doesn't have conversation with the others. He's dancing in the summertime. Jason's so quiet when the team is losing. Where's Jason Wright is something that some of the timeline has to say whenever anything goes wrong for the Washington football team. Why do you feel like some of the fans like to point the finger at Jason Wright whenever he is silent during a lot of, the misfortune for the Washington football team? I mean, this is an uphill battle this organization faces, not only on the field, but off the field as well. I feel like he is kind of a scapegoat in a sense sometimes. And yes, some people know he follows me. I've had conversations with him. Jason's a cool guy, but he's just like you and me. What is your take on why people love kind of steering their direction at Jason Wright whenever anything goes wrong with the Washington football team? I feel like it's really misplaced.
I think it comes down to his Twitter handle, who is Jay Wright. And when I saw he was becoming their president, I'm like, who the heck is Jason Wright? Like, I mean, yeah, he played football, but I have no clue where. And I mean, that, not to make that sound like a bad thing, because obviously I've seen videos of Jason, interviews, conversations. He seems like a pretty cool guy. So I feel like fans just don't know yet what direction he's trying to take this team, if you know what I mean. And it's going to be a multi-step process. And I think it's a group collaboration between Ron Rivera, Jason Wright, Marty Herney, and Martin Mayhew. And they're just starting, and it's going to take some time.
As fans, I can definitely understand why people feel like there should be a lot of transparency right now, and the organization should be very direct with its fan base. I can certainly understand that. And I personally believe that up to this point, whether Jason listens to this or not, he's done a pretty above average job of doing that. Of course, there are a couple of things that the organization slipped up on throughout the season so far, the Sean Taylor retirement, kind of being one of them. But at the same time, anyone who knows Jason, anyone who's talked to Jason in person, he's very genuine. He tells you exactly what he thinks, and he's just like you and me. But he kind of worded it to me in a funny way. He said, I'm just a normal-ass dude with a cool-ass job. I mean, who is Jason Wright, right? I mean, his professional career, not exactly one that's going to be in canon like Madden, like we were talking about earlier. But Jason Wright has always been extremely blunt with me and blunt with a lot of people and anyone who's had a conversation with him in real life. I think on social media, every time something bad happens to watch football team, expecting a press statement from Jason Wright, it's kind of silly. We don't hold any of these other team presidents to these standards. And how many team presidents really have to come in and kind of clean up the mess that there is in Washington and Ashburn? I mean, he's apparently doing a really good job so far. I mean, we had Robert Griffin III, what was it, not even a month ago, talking about his tell-all book, Surviving Washington. And he said because of the state of the building right now, with guys like Jason Wright in the building, kind of steering everyone in the right direction, that, he knows that if he was in those locker rooms today, it would be a different story. It's a different building. It's a different climate. I understand that the ghost of from the past is going to haunt the Washington football team. I think to expect it not to is naive. And to me, Jason's always done a very good job of kind of connecting the older fans with the younger fans as well. Not really picking sides and understanding that we are consumers here. So I wish people would really kind of look at it from a human aspect. It sounds like I'm kind of defending Jason right here, but he tweets out a logo poking fun at Dallas. The same thing we're doing. Everybody's walking around wearing "fuck Dallas" shirts, and is that professional? No. Okay, cool. He's just like you and me, and he's got a pretty cool job. So I don't know. I think a lot about Jason Wright's tenure here is going to be tied into how this entire rebranding process goes. I'm going to be very interested to see how that goes moving forward.
Let me ask you this real quick. How many team presidents do you know during I would assume a business function comes down with his glass of wine to talk to content creators?
Bingo. And for me, it's not about the attention, right?
There you go.
of course, there's a lot of
it's genuine.
There's a lot to be said about him coming down there in general, but to me, it's the conversations. Jason talks to you about all those pressing issues that you have, that you tweet about in those timelines. He will talk to you about it in person. He's not going to tell you the new name. There's a lot of stuff that Jason can't share with you, but as far as being transparent and savvy team presidents, I really can't tell you many around the league that are better. And, a lot like Rivera, I feel like he's a lot more than we really deserve here in Ashburn with our track record. So I wish people would just kind of save their judgment and understand that a team president poking fun at a team rivalry is what football is all about, man. And, this fake outrage just in general with our society is just kind of at an all-time high. So, and with dealing with everything that's going on in Ashburn, it's a lot of real life shit. And real life shit is what Coach Rivera used to describe the DeShazer Everett situation, which we got a little bit more details on as Coach Rivera addressed the media directly. Apparently the car that he was in veered to the right, hit several trees before rolling over. There's still an investigation on the crash ongoing. Of course, there was a loss of life there. Someone very close to Mr. Everett. Very sad stuff there. The team, of course, has been in contact with DeShazer. Did not play against Dallas, of course, on Sunday Night Football. He's being treated at the hospital for non-life-threatening injuries. He was also placed on the Washington football team's non-football injury list. So that does mean that the team is not obligated to pay his remaining salary for the rest of the season. This season, he has played 14 games for the Washington football team. So looks like DeShazer Everett's season and career may be over for the Washington football team. What do you assess of DeShazer's overall performance in 2021, and do you expect him to return?
Well, I'll be honest, I haven't seen his name called much this season. That's just me, or maybe I just wasn't paying attention. I'm not sure, but yes, DeShazer Everett has been a name I've liked over the past couple of years. He seemed to be flying under the radar, in my opinion, this season. But, I think depending on how the investigation turns out, it's hard to say based off performance if he's going to come back, but this situation he's in.
Yeah, there's not a big body of work here, Josh. He's more of a rotational guy. You look at the end of last year, Reeves get a lot of playing time because of the situation at safety. His number not exactly been called a lot this year. Kind of always been a rotational guy for the Washington football team, been in certain packages, but definitely not a on the field 100% of the time kind of guy. I think if you want depth, DeShazer is definitely a guy you bring back. Great special teams player as well. I think that he's someone you can kind of stow away, but there is some talent on tape there if a team does want to kind of swoop in and make a signing. I anticipate DeShazer Everett to come back. Kind of a gadget guy, can do a lot of different things and certain coverage. Very kind of underrated for his physicalness as well. I know Jeremy Reeves is kind of the thumper of this unit, but DeShazer Everett, I like what he does in coverage a lot. And he's kind of been around this building for a good chunk of time now and very familiar with everything here. So I think it'd be a shame to let a guy like that walk now. And there might not be much of a market for him either. So I think the Washington football team will stow him away. Definitely sad for the season to end on those terms. And of course, this is the kind of event with all this trauma kind of trickles down to all the teammates as well. We saw that affect Jamin Davis as well, who did not play on Sunday Night Football. But on top of tragedy like that, you also have COVID-19 outbreaks, which have certainly affected the Washington football team. Up to 25 players now, 8 assistant coaches, multiple staff members as well. First Omicron case in the National Football League as well, something that not a lot of people talk about. That it would be us. I definitely want to give a shout out if he's listening right now. Adam Aniba, one of our previous co-hosts on the show here, talked about how, Montez sweat and, COVID-19 would really ravage this team later down the line. And it's certainly waited until the end to do it, but it certainly has hit the Washington football team pretty hard. And today, some pretty big news in the COVID front as well. Tress Way, Sam Cosmi placed on the COVID-19 reserve list. Man, Sam Cosmi, in my opinion, who was the best pick out of his entire draft class, has been an absolute bruiser up front, handled everybody, at least to my eyes, on the Dallas Cowboys with that pass rush exceptionally well. Can't really keep him on the field for an extended period of time, and his availability has definitely become an issue. But how much of it, and also Tress Way, Pro Bowl alternate this year, how much of a loss is losing both of these guys ahead of this matchup with the Eagles on Sunday?
Tress Way, 200%. It's a big deal. You need to find somebody who can punt the football as well as he can. Tress Way is the best player on this Washington football team, and that's fact right there.
That's a fact.
He can. Yeah, he can punt the ball inside the 5. I don't know anybody else who can do that. So if Tressway can't play, you better start trying people out. And Sam Cosmi, obviously, big loss, protection to Taylor Heineke, but it's something they're going to have to
Cosby's been their best lineman in 2021, so we're losing two of the best at their position. I mean,
I know.
You definitely can't underestimate that. I mean,
it's got to be next man up, bro. It's got to be next.
It's all it's been. It's all next man up is the theme of this team this year. But it just seems like no matter how much depth we have at every position, it's like it never stops. And
Can we make next man up shirts?
Yeah, next man up. I'm actually surprised that isn't on a t-shirt, especially with the way branding has been for the Washington football team. It sounds like they're kind of shitting out a shirt every 5 minutes. Hey, at least Tressway get some more time for hang time. That's cool for him. Get some days off. As far as their availability for Sunday, we don't really know. It'll be a wait and see approach. But we kind of look at Brandon Scherf, one of the highest paid players in this team, all pro bowler, at guard. What is the biggest concern with him? Availability. And if you're an availability guy, which I mean, you only are as good as you are available, as I say, this is kind of a concerning start for Sam Cosmi. But I'll tell you, go back and run that tape against Dallas, and Sam Cosmi is back, and he is taking care of business. Definitely the most efficient on this Washington football team offensive line. But back to Coach Rivera. We talked about, is this the direction that the Washington football team goes in, or was Sunday kind of just a one-off kind of deal? Of course, the Washington football team losing on Sunday, some would say essentially ended their season. Some will say that I'm a pessimist in saying that, but that's certainly how it felt, and that's certainly how a lot of people are perceiving it. This loss on Sunday clinched Washington football team's 5th consecutive losing season. Last playoff victory coming 16 years ago for the Washington football team. Actually, this was the franchise's biggest loss, most lopsided loss since 2007. Those 5 consecutive losing seasons are the most for Washington since 9 in a row from 1957 to 1965. Another thing this marked the first for Coach Rivera is his first really big primetime loss as well. Coach Rivera's had an excellent record in primetime for the Washington football team. Definitely not used to that. So the question is this just a game, or is this the direction that the Washington football team is going in? Is Coach Rivera really building a greater foundation here for the Washington football team? We don't know. Is it too early to decide?
It's too early.
And
that's my opinion. I think it's too early.
And, he did say, I don't know what the future is, but we are playing for the future. For me, Josh, it kind of feels like Rivera's biggest marketing up to this point has always just been, be better at getting your ass kicked. Get your ass kicked like a professional. And I mean, it's true. These are things that we've heard Coach Rivera say at the podium. It's just his demeanor. He's a little grandeur about it, but at the end of the day, that is essentially his thing that he pushes on the team very hard. But Sunday's loss was alarming to me in one very big way, Josh. It just shows that we are that much worse than the Dallas Cowboys. They are showing that they are, in fact, the beasts of the East. Of course, clinched the division title before it was even kickoff on Sunday. But, everybody looks, I mean, if you're not even measuring up to the Cowboys, then, I mean, how are you going to keep asses in seats? And, what is Coach Rivera really doing here in Ashburn? What is the Washington football team making any progress? They did sweep the Dallas Cowboys last year into that eventual NFC East crown for the Washington football team. And all of it really also comes down to control. Jonathan Allen, Daron Payne are a great example of that. Daron Payne kind of boils it down to just a brotherly disagreement between him and Jonathan Allen, longtime teammates, dating back to the Alabama days. They said that they squashed the issue. Rivera kind of keeping his mouth shut about the whole thing. He did say that he addressed both players in the locker room. And of course, he takes that initial, the first second he gets snappy with the media. What I say to my players is really nobody's business. We get it, Coach Rivera. We haven't been there before. We're not Coach of the Year winners. We're not coaching the Washington football team. I'll give you that. But is everybody really buying into what you're trying to sell here? Because it's looking like we're taking a step back in 2021. And Josh, you may say it's too early to tell, but was Sunday really just a blip? Or are we seeing things kind of start to crumble? I mean, people may say I'm being overreactionary, but you can only talk so much without there being any results. I mean, seeing is believing. I know Christmas is over, but I mean, to me, Rivera kind of has to handle stuff like this not only convincingly, but he has to do it look like he's in control. And the Daron Payne Jonathan Allen situation really felt to me like he was never really in control of any of it. Kind of like he just wanted to shoo it away. And he can say real life shit as much as he wants, but how much do you buy that?
Well, you know, in his press conference, he said he never heard about it till after the game. So you think of that, he's up there coaching, somebody else is dealing with that problem right then and there. So he doesn't know the whole story, in my opinion, until he gets it secondhand from the staff, the coaches who were there breaking up that fight. So I'm not going to speculate, but maybe he might have not. I mean, you know how stories get not received as well as it gets passed along. But anyways, but besides the point there, I mean, Ron Rivera, he is a very good head coach, in my opinion. But I think next season is going to be a big teller on what he can do to improve this team. I think this season is more of, injury-ridden, COVID, so on and so forth. But, I think it's too early to tell if Washington is crumbling. If you look back, they've been crumbling since their last Super Bowl. I mean, that's just my taking point. But
yeah, it's crumbling.
Besides that,
you can't build a house without a foundation. And to me, are we seeing the signs of Rivera building that foundation? And, as far as football is concerned, we're not seeing it on the field. And of course,
I don't see it yet.
Huh?
I don't see it yet, but that could change next year. But I think next year, if you're understanding what I'm saying here, this is going to be a telling year to see what Ron Rivera will be able to accomplish. I feel like next season is going to be the season we see if there are more improvements or another not so good product out on the football field.
I can certainly understand that. And, Rivera doesn't want to get in the middle of an issue that he wasn't present for. And I can certainly understand that as well. But if we're going to sit here and talk about speculation, Daron Payne's dad had plenty to say about what happened on Sunday night with Jonathan Allen.
I saw that.
Yeah. So Daron Payne's father on Instagram, if you call a man a female, Payne should knock Allen out. Get a fucking quarterback. Also coming out of Daron Payne's father's mouth. Why don't you blame Allen? Do you know what he called my son? So, speaking of speculation, you and I kind of alluded to the fact that we kind of felt like Jonathan Allen kind of said something slick to Daron Payne, and it led to Daron Payne's very, intense reaction in that encounter. So I had a feeling that Allen was a little loose-lipped during that interaction, and it kind of looks like his father got a little bit of the tea from his son. And something notable here, Daron Payne removing any relation to the Washington football team off of his Instagram account, which did not happen until after this one-on-one with Jonathan Allen. I mean, look, we can sit here and say we're not reading too much into it, but I think that says something, Josh, doesn't it?
It's drama that this team doesn't need,
Like they don't already have enough.
What we've seen this before, Parker. It's not just the NFL. It's like, a teammate doesn't follow this teammate, or just recently unfollowed this teammate, or LeBron James, he doesn't follow the Miami Heat, he's moving on, so on and so forth. Any sort of thing like that. The media just takes a nugget like that, and they're gonna make it to something that it might not be. But removing all affiliation to the team, what could that mean? One of two things. Payne's gone next year, which I hope not. We need him. Or he's just cleansing his Instagram. Who knows?
And, when it comes to the defensive line position in the National Football League, these guys really do play off of each other. And if I was Jonathan Allen, I would really watch what I say to Daron Payne. He's been by your side for a very long time, dating back to the college days. And someone you could really call your brother. And when you burn that bridge with him, Daron Payne looks like he's not afraid to take ship and take his services to another organization. And we might see those numbers dip for Jonathan Allen without the presence of Daron Payne, who's also been healthy, might I add. You know, guys like Matthew Ioannidis have kind of stayed off the field. And I don't know why us Wash football team fans feel like Tim Settle is Aaron Donald. But like you said, I feel like Daron Payne is a very vital part to this defensive line for the Wash football team. So if I was Jonathan Allen, I'd really watch what I say to the guy beside me, because you really don't know how much he pays a factor into how you get your paycheck and how you got your big payday, Mr. All-Pro. So to me, Jonathan Allen's the guy who really needs to step up here and take some accountability for what happened. He can say they moved past it, but words linger, and that you got to put your hand in there beside that guy and play with him every Sunday. So to me, this is a real big fracture in how I view Jonathan Allen as a leader. And definitely his credibility takes a big blow with this for me. I always feel like Jonathan Allen talked a little bit too much, and it looks like it's certainly cashed out with Mr. Daron Payne. We'll see how that plays out. Of course, a lot of football left on Daron's contract technically. So, but I mean, back to Rivera, a lot of people say that this is excuses from Coach Rivera, and a lot of his coach speak talk to the media. So Coach Rivera did say, you play the game long enough, you're going to get beat like this. It happens. How you respond to it, how you bounce back, how you play, that tells more about you than anybody else. So here we go. Marketing, getting your ass kicked better. And this is something we've essentially heard almost ad nauseum since he's been in Ashburn. This was the 7th worst loss in franchise history. But the difference is no more blaming Bruce Allen, no more blaming Jay Gruden, Kyle Smith, or anybody else. And we're definitely used to the drama here in Ashburn. We've talked about that almost ad nauseum. But one thing that Daron's dad said that really stuck out to me, and this is the thing that we all say as content creators, no relation to anybody here on the football team, go get a fucking quarterback. My question for you, Josh, and this really is what is going to be the lifeline for Coach Rivera here in DC. Do you trust Rivera to pick the guy at quarterback?
Well, you look at this draft class in quarterbacking, it doesn't look the best. So he's going to have to do a lot of scouting. I feel like it's up in the air because it's Washington.
This is Rivera. This is Rivera's ship. Rivera has complete control here. That's something that Jay Gruden couldn't say. This is Rivera. This is Rivera's sword. He can either die on it or run into battle with it, And I feel like your long answer or your long pause there is very evident of the fact that we don't know. We don't know if we trust Rivera.
Yeah.
And, you look at the roster here, Josh. You got a guard that should not be making $18 million, Brandon Scherf, All-Pro or not. Curtis Samuel, who's your little homegrown guy from Carolina. Antonio Gibson, and the running backs don't get better after that. Then that is his guy at running back. Logan Thomas, 31 years old, and we're already seeing a lot of injury problems with him as well. Landon Collins, almost $40 million against the cap over the next 2 seasons. And then you got the Martys. For me, man, there's already some questionable things here. And I can understand these things take time. But how long is the rope? And these aren't things that we're going to find answers on today. But for those people that are Rivera truthers and feel like that there should be some accountability that goes to the head coach, these are valid arguments from them. And I just want to kind of cap off the conversation with this. I think before the season started, I was talking about a guy named Anthony Lynn. I remember Rio and Adam, they rolled their eyes whenever I brought up Anthony Lynn, saying he was a good coach and he didn't get a fair shake with the Chargers. He accomplished more in his 2 seasons with the Chargers than Coach Rivera has done here in Washington so far. 4 seasons as their head coach in general, hired by the Chargers January 2017. Started out 0-4 first season in 2017, but then finished 9-7, winning 6 of his last 7 games. The Chargers in 2018 then went up to 12-4, defeated the Baltimore Ravens in the playoffs. That made Anthony Lynn 21 of 11 in his first 2 seasons with the Chargers. Ron is 13-18 so far here in his first 2 seasons with the Washington football team. I think the big thing that was bad for Lynn was that they lost a lot of really close games. Also some of his clock management skills, special teams, a lot of things that we've kind of said about Rivera, him coaching, just a lot of the way he manages a lot of the aspects of the game have been in question. That was something with Anthony Lynn as well. 2020, Anthony Lynn went 7-9. He was 1-1 in the playoffs with the Chargers from 2017 to 2020. He did have Phillip Rivers. I guess Coach Rivera expected Ryan Fitzpatrick to be the kind of the Phillip Rivers of the Washington football team, come and give that veteran presence. Of course, the Chargers then got Justin Herbert. Anthony Lynn, of course, before that could happen. Finished 33-31 record with the Chargers. And, the funny thing looking back in hindsight, injury or not, the fact that people ever even thought that Ryan Fitzpatrick was a solution for the Washington football team, even in the short term, always just kind of made me chuckle. And Brady Quinn kind of spoke on this. Washington is the interesting one to me, where I think you go back to before the season. I'm still questioning, what was the plan at quarterback? Ryan Fitzpatrick was going to be a guy, and that was going to be how it would go. Maybe for the NFC East, maybe not, as we can see, Josh, maybe not. Given his age, what is their ceiling if that is the decision that you're making? So I never understood the whole plan to begin with. So that is one team I can assure you is going to be looking for a quarterback in the offseason. And, of course, we already know no one's going to willingly come be the quarterback of the Washington football team. We got to talking about that a little bit this week on the timeline as well. This is not a desirable attraction for free agents. Dan Snyder, as long as he is the owner of the Washington football team, players are not going to want to come here. So go and can your Deshaun Watson talk? Can your Aaron Rodgers talk? Nobody wants to come here. This is not a viable option, not a desirable destination. So what does that leave us with, Josh? The draft, where we're deciding last year that we should not trade into the top 10 because that's too risky. No, we don't want Justin Fields. No, we don't want Mac Jones. We don't want to mortgage the future. And now we have a pretty talented quarterback class coming up. I don't care what the experts tell you. The experts have been wrong a million times. They were wrong about Zach Wilson so far. They were wrong about Sam Darnold. There's plenty of things that these experts, you should not take them seriously, but so much they're trying to get reactions out of you guys. But we have a very conservative ship we're running here for the Washington football team. One that I don't believe has the balls to make that leap into the top 10 and draft their quarterback. As of right now, they are in the top 10, have the 9th overall selection, if I'm not mistaken. Some people estimate us actually making that trade up to even number 1. To me, that's absolutely hilarious. Nothing that this front office or coach staff has done has even led me to believe that they would have the gall to do something like that. So with all things being considered, Josh, and it's a heavy question, what direction are they going to go in? And what direction do you think they're going to go in based off of Rivera's tenure here so far?
They're going to draft the best available quarterback in their mind. And I think if they don't, they're being dumb, they're being stupid, and they're going to have another bad season. I mean, I know they're going to draft a quarterback. That's first and foremost. Even if Heineke stays or not, there will be a quarterback drafted. I know that.
Well, if Heineke stays or not, Heineke definitely not a great stretch here lately. And Terry, who starts off the season saying Heineke's his guy, is probably hoping that they get that signal caller. Should have got the signal caller this time last year. Should have been having this conversation this time last year. We really took Jamin Davis over trading up and giving up maybe one first-round draft pick to move up and get a very virtuous signal caller. Now we're going into this supposedly weak quarterback class, and my thing is, do we even trust them to make the right pick? And that's my question today on Sidelines Washington for the YouTube comments. Do you think that this regime can pick the right quarterback, the franchise quarterback for the Washington football team? Make sure you guys comment below. Facebook, put it everywhere, guys. Let's get the conversation going. But, Terry McLaurin limited to 3 catches on Sunday for 40 yards. I know I said he had no catches against Trayvon Diggs on this episode. That was wrong. He has been limited to 8 catches for 113 yards in the past 4 games, though. Very big dry spell for Terry McLaurin. Trayvon Diggs, like I said, holding 3 catches overall in their 2 meetings this month. This all ties into the roster building, Josh. This receiving group ranks 23rd in yards per catch, 23rd in yards after the catch. Terry McLaurin has right at 900 yards, and I think the rest of the receiving core has like 920 yards. So it's kind of a one-man show over here in D.C. Not much unity. It's kind of Terry versus the world. And, to this point, Terry's been having to deal with Case Keenum, Colt McCoy, Alex Smith, Dwayne Haskins, Kyle Allen, you name the backup quarterback, he's had them throwing him to him. And the fact that he's even hitting up close to 1,000 yards absolutely blows my mind. And he's playing without guys like Logan Thomas, J.D. McKissick, and Curtis Samuel around him as well. So a lot like the end of last year where Antonio Gibson got hurt in that final stretch, we're noticing all the eyes going straight to Terry McLaurin. Very reminiscent of that. And you kind of look around at the skills position group. You got a lot of guys on one-year deals too. Carter, Humphrey, Seal Jones, and there's one guy I definitely want to look at today who finally did something. It's almost like he listened to our last episode, Josh, and kind of heard what we had to say about him. De'Ami Brown makes one catch and is now averaging one Instagram post per catch, giving me some major Dwayne Haskins energy. Just give you some number here. Since week 7, he has played more than 16% of the snaps just once and received a total of 2 targets, and that was before Dallas. From camp, from Richmond, from Ashburn, from all this, the biggest problem for De'Ami Brown has been route running. The guy can't get any separation, and that almost seems inexcusable to me with a guy like Terry McLaurin at your position on the same team, in the same locker room, in the same film room. What did you make of De'Ami Brown's post, and what do you see his trajectory being with the Washington football team? Do you think people are giving up on him too fast? And what did you make of his performance on Sunday as well? I know we kind of talked bad about everybody on our last post-game podcast, but, I mean, De'Ami did make a hell of a play.
Well, yeah, it was a good play. No, I did not see his Instagram post. I will probably have to check that right after we get off here. But he's a rookie. He still has more to learn. And I feel like in the next couple of seasons, he'll get more and more experience. And he could potentially be a good asset for this Washington football team. Yes, I've seen film on him too, back when he was at UNC, and he looked pretty good. So I think it's just a matter of getting him coached up right, and I think he'll do a fine job.
His post, I don't have to prove them. I have to prove to myself that I can do it. They have their own expectations, their own opinion. I just focus on me and watch them talk crazy, because at the end, I proved it myself and watch me become their quote-unquote favorite. A lot of big talk coming from De'Ami Brown, who has made all of one play here in 2021. I don't care how low our expectations are. Everybody expected and needed De'Ami to be more than that. Ryan Fitzpatrick or no Ryan Fitzpatrick. We see guys like Cam Sims making the opportunities. Adam Humphries, of all people, making the most of their opportunities as well. Someone who's also looking to make the most out of the opportunity is Kyle Allen, who looks like he'll be getting some playing time possibly this Sunday against the Eagles. Rivera said that he will start Sunday. Rivera said that Heineke will start on Sunday. But did indicate that Kyle will see some playing time possibly. Will we play Kyle? ? Probably, Rivera says. But he did state that this was not an indictment of Taylor or anything, that he just wanted to make sure that they get a really good look at Kyle. Kyle finished up Sunday 8 of 10 for 67 yards and a touchdown on that John Bates touchdown. To me, I kind of point to a guy like Kyle Ronick and what he said over the Burgundy Zone. They know what they got in Kyle Allen. For me, it's the second Taylor makes a disastrous play, or he even looks like he's veering in the direction that he was against the Cowboys, you pull the plug earlier than you do. I want to focus on a number here, 7. That's completions by Heineke on 21 attempts against the Cowboys, by far the fewest in a game during his career. What's your take on the quarterback position going into Sunday?
Well, in my mind, I feel like when he made that statement, and I just think it comes down to the fact he made that statement. Yes, it could be that if Taylor makes mistakes, they're going to pull the plug on him early, but I just feel like that Rivera made that comment. He's looking on to the offseason. I hate to say it, yes, there's a mathematical chance, but it's highly unlikely. And going into this Eagles game, I don't think Washington I think they'll put up maybe a fair shake, but I still think the Eagles, depending on, it was a Tuesday game and COVID situation, but I still feel like the Eagles have weapons that will hurt Washington if their secondary can't step up, their defensive line can't step up, Parker. And it's just a combination of a lot of things, but I think Ron Rivera's looking to the offseason to evaluate what needs to be done.
If you're going to look at the offseason, you got to go and start shutting some of these guys down. One being Antonio Gibson. He got a very light workload against the Dallas Cowboys, understandably so. 6 carries for 29 yards. And then, of course, their receiving touchdown. Also 29 receiving yards against the Cowboys. They kind of shut him down early. I thought that was a good move by Coach Rivera and his coaching staff. Antonio Gibson, say what you want, has had kind of a polarizing season this year. He is just one less perfectly blocked run than Jonathan Taylor, who is an MVP frontrunner, Offensive Player of the Year frontrunner in the NFL, but has half as many yards on set plays per PFF. So Antonio Gibson is definitely an impact player, but the volume of the impact, of course, is in question. Not as elusive as we would like him to be as RB1. Antonio Gibson has also experienced 92 perfectly blocked runs at the point of attack. Definitely should have been gaining more yards. because he definitely had a lot more well-blocked plays than a lot of running backs around the National Football League can say that they have. So still kind of missing that explosiveness at the running back position, but at least have a capable runner in the backfield for the Burgundy and Gold. John Bates talked about him as well. Got his first career touchdown Sunday. Shout out to him. Kind of give some praise to some of the guys who did play well. But kind of looked at the snap count and everything a little bit after Sunday. Offensive line played every snap, which is something we haven't been able to say in a couple weeks. Brandon Scherf, of course, still being replaced by Sadiq Charles while he's on the reserve list. Jonathan Williams, 24 snaps. Jonathan Williams was my guy going in this matchup. I know you're a little bit more of a Jared Patterson guy. He got 15 snaps. Neither one of these guys really making much of a difference in this backfield. DeAndre Carter, only 13 snaps. That's another guy I really hope the Washington football team gets a deal done with. And you go to the defensive side of the ball. You hope that a guy like Cole Holcomb can return. But because this defense in general – oh, man. Allowed 232 yards, 13 first downs in their first 3 scores on Sunday Night Football. The Washington football team defense has actually allowed 1,016 yards over the last 2 weeks. And this was a game that I was looking forward to seeing Jamin Davis kind of take the reins at linebacker and make all the calls, but we were spared that. Instead, we got David Mayo playing every snap. The guy who Eifler, who was slated to be a starting linebacker, did not see the field at all on Sunday, so no wonder we didn't really have much of an opinion on him. Casey Toohill led all defensive ends with 43 snaps, and he'll probably have a hell of a lot of that, more of that on Sunday as well, because Montez Sweat, of course, stepping away. His brother tragically gunned down in Richmond. Very sad stuff there. Prayers out to Montez Sweat. Kind of hasn't been able to stay on the field much this year, COVID and all those stuff related, but hate to see him lose anyone in the holiday season as well. So prayers out to Montez Sweat. But of course, today, give a shout out to our sponsor, Homage. Make sure you use promo code SSN Sports 20 for a 20% off of your purchase at homage.com today. Take advantage of our limited time deal with Homage. Promo code SSN Sports 21 for 20% off. But let's get to this Eagles matchup. Enough talk about the Washington football team. Dating back to 2015, Josh, one team has swept the annual Washington Eagles series. Experts see them keeping the tradition alive. A lot of people have the Philadelphia Eagles sweeping the Washington football team in 2021. One side gave us a 45% probability rate. A lot of people see us winning this game as an upset, which kind of blows me when I think about the gap between these two teams. But, let's talk a little bit about this Eagles roster. Quarterback Jalen Hurts. So I feel like a lot of people have been harsh on in general. Kind of a rough half against the Giants on Sunday. 3 of 10, less than, 3 of 10 for less than 20 yards and a QBR less than 40. Finished first half 7 of 17 for 94 yards, 0 touchdowns, and a 59.4 QBR, but finished very strong in the second half. 17-29, 199 yards, 2 touchdowns. To me, Jalen Hurts, even though he is a mobile quarterback, and mobile quarterback is a trigger word for Jack Del Rio, he does a very good job of working through his progressions. I think they broke down the play he made against us on Tuesday Night Football with Dallas Goedert, where he kind of worked through everything and then found Goddard on the sideline, made a very big next-level NFL throw. How does Jack Del Rio and this defense prepare for a guy like Jalen Hurts in less than 2 weeks? Are we just going to see more of the same from this defense?
I don't know. There's got to be a lot of preparing with all this injuries and COVID and so on and so forth. Got to watch your guys. Look at Jalen Reagor. I think he's a guy you need to keep your eye on as well. And Goddard, yes. You got
Devontae Smith averaging 16 yards a catch over here. So
Devontae Smith. Yeah, Jalen Reagor's more of like a fly under the radar, but Devontae Smith. You got to look out. They have weapons, Goddard, Smith, and Jalen Reagor. So
and a great offensive line, might I add. Lane Johnson scored his first career touchdown Sunday. All these guys ranked pretty high by PFF, 83 for Lane Johnson.
Well, that was a pretty good touchdown.
It was, but for a big guy touchdown, that's pretty much as good as it gets.
It was very cool, Parker, too, because Lane Johnson, that was his first game back because he took time off to take care of his mental health. And they threw a Santa hat on his bald head.
Yeah, Lane Johnson being one of the people that was very outspoken about feeling that it was unfair that the Washington football team gets that COVID delay. Of course, he delayed his season a little bit of himself there, but I'm not going to grab any low-hanging fruit. I just hate the Eagles. But if the Washington football team is going to do anything, they need to stop this rush attack. That was the big story coming out of that Tuesday Night Football matchup. Miles Sanders, Jordan Howard, and Boston Scott all combined for 123 yards and 28 carries against the Giants in that big blowout win. Philly has actually rushed for 175 yards or more in the last 7 games. 130 against the Giants. But I think the big news coming out of this backfield throughout the week here has been Miles Sanders, not placed on IR, broke his hand. Sanders is sitting right, I think, about at 800 yards rushing on the season. Could be out to the playoffs, but he's been averaging 5 yards a carry. They get Karan Johnson, who's a very talented back, won that one in Washington football team to go after off the practice squad. Jordan Howard's dealing with the stinger. Keith Gainwell is not exactly high on the totem pole right now with his ball security issues. So do you feel like this Eagles running back committee is kind of limping into this matchup, and that could fare for the Washington football team?
Absolutely. Honestly, I had no clue Miles Sanders broke his hand. So that's a plus for this Washington football team defense. They can't run the football effectively. They're going to go to their 3 weapons we talked about earlier, Parker. And if the Washington football team cannot shut those 3 weapons down, it's still going to be a long night for this team.
Absolutely.
Long day.
Long day. And this Eagles defense isn't too shabby either. Their defensive coordinator, Jonathan Gannon, is amongst some of the top head coaching candidates going into this next season as well. So a lot of eyes on this Philadelphia Eagles defense, who did place Derek Barnett on the COVID list as well, along with a couple others. And I've heard that they're actually keeping the quarterback separate throughout the week as well, so they have to deal with some of the issues we've been dealing with here in Ashburn. But this defensive line, Fletcher Cox, all-pro, Josh Sweat, TJ Edwards at backer, all these guys have been playing just fundamentally sound throughout this little winning streak the Eagles have been on. Darius Slay, of course, at corner, just allowing 1 catch for 4 yards against the Eagles. Safety Rodney McLeod, Anthony Harris, Avonte Maddox. One big thing about these guys, Josh, before we move on to Nick Sirianni, is they look like they're having fun. And that's something that I could say about the Washington football team last year when they were kind of piecing things together at the end of the year to just squeak into the postseason. These guys look like they're having fun. They're playing fun football, and they definitely have a pro player kind of coach in Nick Sirianni. Of course, they start off 2-5, definitely not impressive, but for them to be where they are now is definitely impressive by inaugural head coach Nick Sirianni, who a lot of people were questioning going into the season. They definitely need to start faster, and that's been one of the biggest question marks in Nick Sirianni's team so far. They have 0 points in the first quarter in 3 of their last 4 games. They have a big problem. They've got what I like to call Scott Turner disease. They like to kind of veer away from the things that actually make them win football games. They had 14 total pass attempts compared to their 8 rush attempts. Of course, they then veered a little bit back towards the run, which kind of got them on that winning streak in the first place. I think Sunday was the 4th time ever the Eagles have scored 3 or fewer points before halftime and 31 or more after halftime against the Giants. Of course, like I said, they know their balance. They know what wins them football games. And, of course, that's relying a lot on the mobility of one Jalen Hurts and, of course, relying on the superstar ability of some of your running backs who maybe weren't the guy for other teams, but as a committee and well-coached seem to be gaining a lot of ground for this Eagles offense. But, yeah, that team finished strong, 34-10 against the New York Football Giants and Jake Fromm, of all people. And one last statistic here for Philadelphia, if I ask you what you think of Nick Sirianni. They have scored 30 or more points 7 times this season. They're averaging 29.9 points per game since week eight, which is the second highest in the NFL, only behind Indianapolis. So what do you make of Nick Sirianni's team?
Nick Sirianni, when I heard he took the job, I was sort of questioning why they picked Nick Sirianni, because I didn't really hear much about him during his tenure in Indianapolis, but he seems to be doing a decent job. This is his first year. And when the Eagles got off to that rough start, I was like, so why'd you pick this head coach? I mean, what's going on? Seems like the things he's implementing, they're working. The Eagles are slowly getting back on track. And
rock, paper, scissors fiasco was hilarious to me.
Oh yeah, that too. But I mean, looking at Nick Sirianni, I feel like next year it's going to be another telltale year for this Eagles team. If what Nick Sirianni can do,
a lot of uncertainty for these two teams. Big matchup on Sunday. Definitely not as big as the first, but definitely a big matchup. Washington team can play spoiler and I guess still stay alive in the playoff race. But if there's one thing that is certain, if Philly wins these last 2 weeks, they will be in. After the San Francisco loss and the Minnesota loss, Nick Sirianni and the Eagles, a lot like the Washington football team did before Tuesday Night Football, holds their own and controls their own destiny. Before we go to our final segment here on the show, make sure you guys check out Prize Picks. Promo code SSNWFT for a 100% instant deposit bonus match. Remember, it is you versus the projection, not you versus the players. Download the free Prize Pick apps. Of course, all details apply as well. But this is our Prize Picks pick of the week. Sunday, regular season finale. Washington football team at FedEx Field, December 2nd, 2021, 1 p.m. They got the Eagles minus 3.5, over under 46.5. Josh, what's your final score prediction? You taking the over, the under, and what are your predictions for Sunday's matchup against Philadelphia Eagles at home? And who's your MVP?
Taking the under, Eagles 20, Washington 17. The run game lacks, but there are some big explosives in the receiving core for the Eagles. MVP for the game, I'll go Dallas Goedert.
Dallas Goedert, I like that. I had Jake Elliott as the MVP for our last matchup, oddly enough. I got the Washington football team playing spoiler. There's no reason why I should pick the Washington football team to win, but I got the Washington football team pulling this one out 22-19. I got the under. MVP, kind of a ballsy one. A guy we've talked a little bit about on the show today. Got to put some respect on his name, get him to 1K this year. Terry McLaurin. My bold prediction, one of my bold predictions, we're not going to see Kyle Allen on Sunday. I think Taylor Heineke and Terry McLaurin have a pretty solid day. Terry, when he has had adequate quarterback play, which I feel like this Washington football team has a lot to prove on Sunday after getting absolutely smacked at Jerry World and being at home, this offense is going to come out hot and they're going to be making plays enough to win this game. Because, like I said, this Dallas Cowboys team, oh my goodness, this Philadelphia Eagles team, I don't know. We've been talking about the NFC so much, I can't even get my teams right. This Philadelphia Eagles team to me is not a contender, and they're pretty right up there with us in regards to talent. Of course, they got a little bit more going at the quarterback position, but they got a banged up backfield and a defense that can be folded, even though it does have some talent. Will they ride the wave coming in? Who knows? They play well on the road as well. But I got the Washington football team playing spoiler 22-19 against the Philadelphia Eagles, Parker. Holy shit.
$67 on StubHub.
Oh, I like it. And my bold prediction is Terry McLaurin has his best game of 2021 for the Washington football team. So whatever his best stat line was, I say he will supersede that on Sunday against the Eagles and what I think needs to be a bounce-back game for the Washington football team. Even if it's not leading to any playoff implications, it's really about pride, a lot like it was going into the Dallas Cowboys matchup. And it's definitely been reduced to mush after the way things cracked out on Sunday football. The Washington football team needs this just enough for self-respect as the Eagles need this to make it into the playoffs. That's all the time we got here today. If you guys are still with us, appreciate you. As always, you're watching us on YouTube. If you made it this far, make sure you subscribe. Click the bell, turn on notifications if you're listening to us. We love you. Leave us a 5-star rating and review. Give us a follow. Check us out when new episodes drop. Josh, kind of getting near the end of the season. We're on the home stretch, 17-game season. Some will say it's dragging because of what's happening on the field, but it's always fun talking it with you, man. And tell them all the latest with Kirby on Sports, bro.
Kirby on Sports Podcast. Check us out, www.kirbyonsports.com. Have some things in the work, nothing set in stone, but hopefully we'll be bringing more fresh, exciting content to come, getting you set for the NFL postseason. Always a pleasure, Parker.
Of course. Check out Kirby on Sports. Make sure you subscribe over there as well. Make sure you check out Sidelines official Twitter page. Sitting at 127K right now. Join one of the fastest rising sports networks in the country. You can email me at silence_WFT or find me on social media at Parker Hamlett. Let's get the conversation going. You can join the family today. Also, make sure you check out Sidelines official website. Got some new articles coming up over there as well. Would very much appreciate the clicks. Everybody listening, hope you're enjoying the new year, even if you're watching Pete Davidson and Miley Cyrus celebrate it. Make sure you got your DDs, guys. Gets kind of sloppy. It's kind of nasty out there. Get an Uber. But we will be back after the ball drops. But until then, this is the SSN signing off. Peace.